Good day to you, rSpace fans. Today, we've got a few stories involving pregnant women. Let's start things off with, I, 28 male, want to divorce my pregnant wife, 27 female, but I'm too scared. I'm a 28-year-old male. My wife is 27 years old. We've been married for 2 years, and she is currently between 6 and 7 months pregnant. As of now, I can safely say that marrying her was the worst decision of my life. I do not like my life. I do not enjoy my life. I hate my life. And I think I hate my wife. She has made my life miserable in unimaginable ways. Before we got married, we used to argue sometimes. Very infrequently, but we normally peacefully resolved the arguments, and were open to communication and compromise. I still loved her very much then. Once we got married, the arguments started becoming more and more frequent, but we still largely resolved them amicably. It reached the point where often she would start an argument and I would just sit it out, or not argue or contest anything, apologize if necessary, until she calmed down. It wasn't fun, but it allowed me to avoid getting into the heat of the arguments and fights, and it prevented them from escalating. When we found out she was pregnant, we were overjoyed. We had always wanted children, and I thought this would be the greatest thing for our marriage, and it would finally turn things around. Things started going downhill steeply then. My wife has become an intolerable person. She shouts, she throws a fit over the smallest things. If one thing is out of place, if I am slightly late on washing the dishes, or if a single dish is not properly cleaned, she will raise hell on me. If I say one thing wrong, or one thing that slightly upsets her, she will raise a storm. If I sit down to watch TV or play games, she will raise a storm. When she gets like this, she cannot be reasoned with. She cannot be talked to. I can't even try to calm her down. It just makes her worse. At times, things have gotten physical. I consider this to be very severe physical, emotional, and mental abuse. I feel as if she has drained all happiness and joy out of me. I do not feel happy when I see her anymore. I do not feel the joy and love that I used to feel towards her. Now, I see her as someone to avoid. Someone I know will shout at me and make my life miserable. Sometimes, it's not even something that I do. Sometimes she will just be feeling unhappy and pick an argument over nothing, and keep it going until it turns into a fight with her shouting at me. This has been going on since at least the beginning of the pregnancy, and if I had to be honest, the signs were there before. I regret marrying her so much. She is not the woman I loved. If I had to be absolutely truthful, I would say no. I no longer feel any love towards this woman, my wife, who's carrying our baby. I said things have gotten physical, and they have. One time, she threw a fork at me. It hit me on the face, a few inches below the eye, and caused a sharp scratch. I had to lie and tell everyone it was due to an accident. The only people that know it was because she threw a fork at me are me and her. Honestly, I have become fearful of her. I've taken to avoiding her. I've started spending much of my time at my parents' house because I cannot stand to be around her. She drives me crazy and makes me scared. A few times I even spent the night at my parents' house. At one incident, I drove there in the middle of the night because she was raising such a furor I could not be in the same house as her. A bit about her mental history. Yes, I know all about pregnancy hormones. Yes, I know there can be depression during pregnancy, and sometimes pregnant women can behave strangely. The thing is, I can't even bring this up with her. If I dare to suggest seeing a psychiatrist or a therapist about her behavior, she will go nuts at me for suggesting that she is crazy or suggesting she is in the wrong. She will go nuts because how dare I suggest anything other than it's all my fault and she's not to blame. She will go nuts. She has a history of depression. I know she took meds in her teenage years, but stopped in her early 20s. She didn't have much of a problem with it since then, and she stated herself she believed the meds never helped, and she doesn't like psychiatry all too much. She doesn't want any medical intervention or any therapy. At this point, I don't even want therapy, not that she's open to it. I feel it's past that point. I can't live like this anymore. I want out. I have no idea how to approach it. I'm scared of her. If I tell her frankly what I'm feeling, that I want to end this marriage and I want a divorce, how will she react? What if she throws something at me again? What if she attacks me again, tries to hurt me or hurt herself? She's carrying an unborn child. What if she tries to hurt the child? I have no idea what will become of our child. Its future already compromised before it's even born. An abortion is out of the question because where we live, it's illegal past 20 weeks. I'm scared. I'm frustrated. I feel no love towards this woman at all, only fear and loathing. I want to get out as soon as I can, cut my losses, whatever they may be. If I have to pay child support forever, I will take that if it means I can have a normal life otherwise. Frankly, I'm even considering involving Child Protective Services to see if it is even safe to leave the child with her once he is born. Bottom line, my pregnant wife has made my life miserable beyond hell. She is very abusive towards me. I cannot stand this life anymore, and I want a divorce, but I'm scared and I don't know how to approach it. This is one crazy situation. Let's see how the community thinks COP should proceed. Orange Kitty says, pregnancy hormones are never an excuse for abuse. Women all over the world have been having babies for millions of years, and most of them don't attack their husbands. She could have put out your eye. If you are so unhappy and scared of your spouse, I think divorce is probably best. There's not much else to be done if she refuses any sort of therapy, and staying together for the kids is so damaging to your children. Far better to divorce and model healthy relationships and boundaries than to subject your child or children to a house full of hate and walking on eggshells. That being said, I think it would be best for all of you if you could wait to start proceedings until after the birth of your child. You don't want to stress her out too much or risk her trying to keep you off of the birth certificate or harming the baby or something. There are many things you can do in the meantime to quietly prepare for separation. I would make copies of all your important paperwork, birth certificates, social security cards, deed to the house, etc., and send them to a trusted friend to keep safe. If you need to hide this from your wife or you don't want to tell the friend yet in case it gets back to her, you can tell them it's in case of a fire. You can also take out a safety deposit box at the bank. Next, if you are afraid for your safety, I would suggest keeping a diary of incidents with the date and time and a record of what happened. Example, August 5th, 10 p.m. Wife screamed at me and threw 3 dishes at the wall. Threatened to feed my nuts to the dog. This record can help you with custody to make sure she can't shut you out. I would also suggest purchasing nanny cams and setting up a few around the house. Try not to tell her, but if she catches you, I'd play it off like you're testing the baby monitors. They sell cameras now for babies that connect to the parents' smartphones, so this can be a cheap and easy way to make sure her actions are recorded. Finally, you need to have someone else in the know and in your corner. Do you have any friends you can count on to be on your side? Tell them what's going on. You'll need their emotional support, and perhaps even a safe place to go if your wife gets physical again. The OP responded with, thanks for your advice. The safe place outside of home I have is my parents' house. I've been increasingly spending more time there to get away from her and even spent the night there on occasion. And now for the update. Firstly, I have contacted a lawyer and my wife and I are on the path to divorce. I explained to her clearly in no uncertain terms that I 100% could not continue in this marriage. It was not a pretty sight, I'll say that. Her reaction was not what you'd call understanding, but eventually she accepted it. Prior to that, I had spoken to the obstetrician. I had told him in full about her symptoms and behavior. He spoke with her. She presented a completely different picture about everything, denied most of what I had to say, said I was exaggerating. Obviously, the obstetrician didn't want to get involved in taking sides or doing marriage counseling, but he said that unless she represented a danger to herself or someone else and had expressed clear thoughts of self-harm, she could not be admitted against her will. Whew, what a wild ride to get things started, huh? Alright, on to the next one. I'm 28 male, almost positive my wife, 27 female, of 2 years is pregnant, but she refuses to take a pregnancy test or to go to the doctor despite being very late. Does she have an affair baby? I'm very confused, concerned, and lost over what to do. This is such a bizarre situation. It's my hope that someone on here can help me make sense of this situation and better understand what my wife may be thinking or not thinking. Lately, my wife has been showing what I think are obvious symptoms of being pregnant, and it seems fairly certain to me that either she is or she has some illness that has the same symptoms as pregnancy, if there's even such a thing. I will get to them in a moment, but the real issue here for me is that she refuses to acknowledge the possibility she might be pregnant, and I have no idea why. Despite it being undeniable that something is going on with her physically, she refuses to even consider the possibility she's pregnant. If I point all the evidence to the contrary, she'll get angry and tell me that I'm not qualified to make a judgment because I'm not a doctor. Not to go off on a rabbit trail too far, but what I also don't understand is why she refuses to take a test. If she's not pregnant, so be it. But what does it hurt to rule it out for certain? If she really isn't pregnant, then she's got other health issues we should be addressing. I've even gone so far as to buy a pregnancy test from the store, so all she had to do was take it, but she won't even do that. As for the symptoms, she had what I would describe as morning sickness for almost 2 weeks now. I can't say for sure that's what it is because it comes and goes, but I can tell you that it's new. It is a very recent thing. That alone wouldn't be enough to make me think pregnancy, but she's also experiencing extreme fatigue and seems to be more moody lately, all of which are classic symptoms of pregnancy. But if that wasn't enough, She also is extremely late on her period. Her cycle is usually very regular, and she has never been more than a couple of days off of it in the 7 years we've been together. She currently is almost 3 weeks late, soon to be 4, and I find it hard to believe that this is just a coincidence. As if after all these years, she just so happens to be late at the same time the rest of this junk is happening. I mean, my God, what else does she think it can be? I don't understand how she can tell me that she doesn't think there is any chance she is pregnant with a straight face, let alone be angry when I keep asking her to take a test or see a doctor. I'm not saying that it's 100% guaranteed, but please just take the damn test so we can rule it out. I'm starting to feel like a crazy person or like someone that's living in a bizarro world. It seems obvious to me that something is going on with her body, but she denies anything is happening. I have even started to wonder if it's possible that she is pregnant with another man's child and is lying to me until she can figure out what to do. I hate to think that about her, but there is no logical explanation for her behavior or how she could not suspect even slightly that she could be pregnant. I don't know what my options are at this point. I can't physically force her to take the test, and since I can't do that, I don't know what I can do to convince her to take this seriously. Obviously, my pleas have not worked so far, and I don't think they will work any better in the future. Should I consider talking to her mother, a friend, or her sister? I feel like that is possibly a breach of trust, but I don't know what else to do. Or should I just take her at her word despite all of the evidence pointing to her being wrong about her pregnancy? You're right, that is quite bizarre. Let's see what the community wants to say about it. Paula X-Ray says, "You said there's no logical explanation for her behavior. But of course there's a logical explanation besides cheating. She didn't and doesn't want to be pregnant and is trying to live in denial. Were you guys planning to get pregnant right now?" OP says, "We were not trying." Paula X-Ray responds, "Were you planning to have kids at all? What was your timeline for that, if you were?" OP responds, "We were planning to have kids, but not this soon. We were going to start trying late next year." Paula X-Ray says back, "Okay, so I think she's trying to bury her head in the sand here a little bit because she probably didn't want to be pregnant yet. That seems more likely than that she's pregnant with someone else's kid. No, you can't force her to take a pregnancy test, but what you can do is sit her down and ask her if she won't take the test because she doesn't want to be a parent yet or isn't ready. If she puts you off after that conversation, the only thing you can do is wait her out." The OP comes back with, "I guess that could be it. It just seems strange because I know she always wanted children. In fact, she was the one who convinced me to agree to start a family, or at least trying, next year instead of the year after." Pregnant Whale, wait, is this her? Says, "All I ever wanted was to carry my husband's child. I honestly was always daydreaming about it all the time. Anywho, my husband told me last year that my boobs were fuller and I should take a test. Having just gotten engaged and made plans to travel Europe, I told him I knew my body, so no thanks. I pushed it for as long as I could, almost a month. I took a test. I was pregnant. LOL. I denied it for ages due to fear of our plans and lives changing, but as the pregnancy progressed, the more excited I got." Pola X-Ray says, "People can react really weirdly when things become a reality as opposed to conjecture. I mean, I guess it's also possible she cheated and is pregnant with someone else's kid, but that seems way less likely than simple fear and anxiety. Best of luck, OP." Moving on to the final pregnancy story. I've been cheated on while pregnant. Currently pregnant with our second child, and my husband started an affair in October while I was in the second trimester. It was a long week of trickling information, most of which were blatant lies. He made out with a young girl he met at work Halloween morning and began sexting her the following week. This culminated with him telling me what had been happening, showing me the messages, and asking for a divorce. That night, while he was at work, I became physically ill and let him know because I needed him to grab Pedialyte on his way home. The next morning, he had completely changed his tune, saying he would end it. His family meant more to him. He loved me and wanted to work on a relationship. I believed him. I thought we were doing well. We were working Gottman steps, having a ton of sex, enjoying family things with our son. On December 17th, he came home from work really late that morning and admitted he'd been seeing her again, talking to her for weeks at work, and had been making out with her all week after work. I ended up in the hospital later that day because of the COVID symptoms I had been having, combined with my pregnancy symptoms. I'm at risk of getting eclampsia again. While at the hospital, I requested an STD panel test and asked my husband to let me know what he had really been doing with her so I could get the appropriate tests done. He finally admitted to me he had sex with her that morning in the car down the road from his parents' house. At the time, the devastation didn't really hit me. I felt more like I had been waiting for this news for a while and maybe was more relieved that he finally told me. He also let me have it through text that he really didn't want to be with me, had been lying to me this entire month or more, and as well as most of our 8-year relationship. He also said he should have left me a long time ago. He never really wanted to have kids with me. He thought he could suffer through it the rest of his life, but he realized that he can't, and she was a catalyst for that realization. He wants to be alone, doesn't have emotional capacity for a relationship or for me, doesn't know who he is. We are now separated and living under the same roof. We have not told our 3.5-year-old son anything until we figure out what we are doing. I had given up trying to work on a relationship after the last 2 therapy sessions we have had. He said that he didn't want a relationship, yet he started one while we were still together and has continued to have it with her after our separation. Supposedly, he ended things with her after the therapist told him he shouldn't be doing anything like that for at least 6 to 18 months. During therapy, he said he maybe at some point put it in the future to be willing to work on a romantic relationship if something changes. But at this point, he is not. I'm open to living under the same roof with him to raise our family, solely for the sake of our children. Both of us were raised in split households, and we went through a terrible time with his oldest child going back and forth that did a lot of damage to the poor kid. He said he is willing to discuss it, and I am not asking for this in hopes to save our relationship. I am trying really hard to feel my pain and move forward through this recovery. It's really hard to do with seeing him every day. Most days I can't even look him in the eyes because I will break into tears. Christmas was especially hard. I thought I would be able to pull through the day for my son, but after the morning opening presents together as a family, I couldn't keep it together for about 3 hours and kept crying while I was cooking. I have joined several self-help groups on Meetup and am here. I have looked into getting my own therapist, but haven't made much progress on that. Alright community, help this lady out. Space Ranger 89 says, "Welcome to the Separated in the Same House Club, a level of hell that I don't think any of us ever really imagined possible. You have 2 options, and you ultimately control the timeline, but it really depends on how much pain you can take and where your breaking point is. Option 1. Stay in the same house. Pros. You get to see your kids 24/7, you get to be there when they wake up and go to sleep, etc. Essentially, if it's being a single parent with full custody, with some additional financial support coming in from your WS. Cons. You are giving up every one of your personal desires. You are not in a relationship. You are roommates with someone you have had amazing highs and incredible lows with. They will continue to do whatever it was with their AP or new APs, if you can even call them that at this point, without any care for how it makes you feel. They get to live the perfect life, hopping into their kids' lives as they please and playing super parent on social media, all while you do all the work. Option 2. Proceed with the divorce and move to your own place, or have WS move to their own. Pros. You get to have a life. You get to find someone who loves and cares for you and get that fulfillment that comes with a relationship. You also get to make 50% of the time you have with your kids the best time, because you aren't so overwhelmed and like Atlas carrying the world on your back. You also don't have to deal with WS issues, because outside of kid exchanged, you can go no contact. Cons, you are now a part-time parent. You don't get to put your kids to bed every night or wake them up every morning. You will live and die by the parenting plan. You will get a lot of push for number 2 from here, as it certainly is the route that you get to stand strong and build up your self-esteem. But I'd be lying if I said it was easy or the life in option 1 isn't where you end up for quite some time. You kind of get the mentality that while this is hell, no doubt, I'm an adult and I can take it and go through all the pain for your kids. However, you do this alone without a partner, and they get to have the time of their life. It sucks, but again, I'm not going to fault anyone for living through that pain because I know what it's like to have kids involved in this crap storm.